does feel like the calm before the storm. You know, it feels like that calm before the storm, with Bitcoin hovering at like between 43,000 and 44,000. And that's in anticipation of tomorrow's CPI numbers. There's going to be some big news tomorrow with the CPI numbers. We're going to look at what the CPI numbers mean for Bitcoin. Also, we've got some huge other news that is broken that we want to talk to you about. Then we're going to talk about a whole lot of altcoins. And then there's a specific category of altcoins that I am actually quite comfortable to buy. And we're going to talk about what that category of altcoins is and why I'm so comfortable to actually talk to you guys about it. And today's the first time we're early. So let's get the show going early. You know, even though we started like 10 minutes late, I still feel like a pilot that has landed the airplane before time. So like I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, we've landed 5 minutes early. Then I looked at the clock. We're actually still 10 minutes late. We are getting better every single day. We are getting better every single day. Guys, welcome back. I'm Crypto Man Run. I'm here twice, 3 times, 4 times a day, bringing you crypto love and crypto wisdom. And today we've got a big jam-packed show for you guys. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about altcoins. We're going to talk about Russia. We're going to talk about the smartest kids on the block. We're going to talk about some altcoins that we're going to be buying. There's a lot to talk about today, and I want to get straight into the show. So if you are new to the channel, just subscribe to the channel, join this movement, join the crypto banter community, the best community in the world. And if you're here and you've been here for a while, smash a like button. Just let us know that you're around. Give us some love. That's all we ask for. We work hard every day. There's 65 of us now at Banter, bringing you 4 shows every single day. 4 shows every day now. And the reason why we've done 4 shows is there is method in our madness. The 4 shows are because we want to prepare you guys for everything that you're going to be dealing with in the next year in crypto. And so we've created we've looked at what you guys will need, and we realized that what you need is you need a DeFi show. You need to know how to maximize yield, because regardless of whether you're in a bull market or a bear market, you need to know how to get yield on the crypto that you've got and how you can maximize that. And for that, we've got, I think, the smartest kid on the block. His name is Miles Deutscher. If you didn't watch Miles' show yesterday or his show today, this was the show today. This show is taking off. This show is absolutely taking off. Then we've got Sheldon's show, which is a charting show. He spoke about 5 altcoins entering the buy zones. Then you got this fundamental show, and then later on you got Mr. Hustle joining us with his show. I heard it's going to be a big one. Let's get Hustle back here. Hustle, how's it, buddy? You weren't expecting me so early, right? You weren't expecting me so early in the mix.
You always throw me for curveballs. You know, you cut me off last show. You're definitely always keeping me on my toes. I like it.
Hustle, what are we talking about today on the gaming show, bro?
We're kind of going to dig deeper into a couple of projects, and I'm not gonna spill any beans, but we're going to go deep into one game's economy from top to bottom, tokenomics from all their tokens, how much you can earn inside the game. We have a couple of gaming studios that we're actually going to take a look at that aren't Vulcan Forge, that are not Gala Games, very, very under the radar projects. And then I'm excited to cover, like I said, once again, just some upcoming games. We're going to look at some gameplay. The rest of the week's going to be really fun on the show. We have some exciting things planned for today through Friday, so I'm excited about that.
So I saw today that Sheldon's chart of the day. If you haven't seen Sheldon's chart of the day, go to the website. There is Sheldon's chart of the day. The chart of the day was Superfarm. And if you have been watching Superfarm's been moving up quite a bit. I mean, it's been moving up for the last couple of days, looking fantastic. And I think this coincides with the launch of their first game. Is that right?
Yeah, so right now, basically, they're on the cusp of teasing more about their Imposters game, which is basically like Among Us. Anyone from watching from Twitch probably knows what Among Us is, or a lot of people who are just game, for example. Among Us was super popular, and that's kind of the style of game they're building. It's called a social elimination game, and it's called Imposters. And then also, obviously, their NFT marketplace is kind of just in the waiting, right? We're just kind of waiting for both of those to launch, their game and their marketplace.
So we spoke about when you were on the show, you've been calling Superfarm the whole week, but when we had a joint show, was it, I think Monday or last week, we said at about 80 cents, we said Superfarm looks like it's a screaming buy. I think now it's well over that 80 cents. If you weren't in Superfarm, would you get into Superfarm now? I
still don't think it's overvalued whatsoever. I mean, you take a look at pull up the market cap. It's only a 440 million market cap. It's right at 1 billion diluted. Let's look at Looks Rare, which is an NFT marketplace, 3.3 billion fully diluted. And Looks Rare doesn't have a game that they're building and all the partnerships that Superfarm has. So
I like it. Hustle, stay with me. We'll bring you back towards the end of the show. Have some fun, talk about some crypto gaming. Otherwise, just remind people what we're going to be doing in the show. Let's get the rest of the show on the road. Let's talk about the Bitcoin price, because that's what's happening right now. It's like the calm before the storm. Like it's like it wants to break out. You can feel that there's this short squeeze and Bitcoin wants to break out, and that's ahead of the CPI numbers that are coming out tomorrow. Now, the market has expectations for the CPI numbers, for the inflation numbers, and I think as long as we're within the expectations, we kind of have nothing to worry about. As long as the CPI numbers get anywhere near the expectations, then I think it's going to be a big nothing burger. I think whatever the numbers are, it's going to be a big nothing burger, because the market's expectations are at around, as we said last week, at around 7.3%. So if inflation is around 7.3%, everything will be fine. And the reason why everything will be fine is because it feels like investors have priced in the interest rate hikes this year. And, after the jobs report last week, where the jobs numbers were extremely high, it looks like the market has taken in some of the biggest adjustments in the market. Now, if you look at what the market has still priced in, the market has now priced in 6 hikes over the 7 FOMC meetings that remain in 2022. Remember that before the jobs numbers, the market had priced in 4 hikes. Also note that the market has priced in 5 hikes in the next 5 meetings. The probability of a 50 basis point hike in March is now 29%. So the market's kind of already reacted to the news of the interest rate hikes. The market has priced in full interest rate hikes. In fact, I saw this, and it's kind of scary how the market is expecting the interest rate cycle to turn, and how quickly the market is expecting the interest rate cycle to turn. The probability of a interest rate hike in March between 0.25 and 0.5% is 100%. So if there's 100% probability, or expectation, you should say, then in May, 100%, then in June, 100%, then in July, 100%. So you can see the market has already priced in all of these interest rate hikes, and the market's kind of saying, look, we know, we've factored it in, we've adjusted, and as long as there's no surprises, as long as we're not completely above the CPI and the market doesn't get any shocks, well, then everything is already priced in and we can start looking forward. And the market's saying to you, look, when we were over here, when the Bitcoin price was low, around 35,000, that was the last of it. And at that point, the market saw that the jobs numbers were high and priced in interest rate hikes. The only thing that could maybe catch us off guard, maybe catch us off guard, is what Pentoshi says. He says, some thoughts going into March, CPI print expectations are higher than 7. CPI print expectations are 7.3 this Thursday. Hearing it could come in at 7.8 or 7.9%, which is the highest in 40 years. Oil is up 20% to start the year. Food is also skyrocketing this quarter. Higher cost of goods. The average consumer is hit the hardest. So, yeah, and he talks about the pricing, or how much the pricing of beef, pork, chicken, and other prepared foods cost. But I must be honest, I don't think that we're going to get such a big miss of expectations. I think already the Fed has egg all over its face. Already the Biden administration has egg all over their face for not being able to control inflation. And so I think tomorrow we'll get somewhere around 7.3. And even if we do get slightly higher, I don't think it's going to completely ruin the party. And if it does, I still think that there's a whole lot of this pent-up energy in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin does look like it wants to take off. It looks like it's almost waiting for tomorrow's news that can get into its next move. And its next move. You're also seeing a whole lot of good news coming out in Bitcoin. And I know this, how the news cycle plays out. When all of a sudden you start seeing all this good news, that usually means that the market's factored in all the bad news and they're starting to look more at the good news. We saw today that there was an announcement that Microsoft is hiring a head of cryptocurrency and business development. That was one of the things we saw. We also saw some other news, but I think this news is a nothing burger. And that was the news that Apple's upcoming Apple iPhone feature to give merchants a way to accept crypto payments. I think it's a nothing burger. When I read this article about Apple Pay, which allows technically any phone to become a point of sale device, people are saying Apple Pay users will technically be able to use the iPhone to tap pay features to make crypto payments across mainstream. But it's not about crypto payments. If you read the rest of this announcement, it's actually about being able to accept contactless debit card and credit card payments and other digital wallets, but it doesn't specifically talk about cryptocurrency. So I think that's a stretch, but it does look like there's this like flow of good news coming into the market. And usually when that happens, it does mean that we're in the beginning of a new cycle, which is what I said to you guys yesterday. I think that now is the time to become cyclists. And we are all becoming cyclists because we're entering the new cycle. We've had the confirmation of the new cycle. And if you have entered the new cycle, or if you believe crypto has entered the new cycle, then maybe you want to trade accordingly. That's what we're going to talk about later on today in the show. Before that, though, how many of you haven't met Heather Morgan and her husband, Ilia Lichtenstein? You guys met them yet? You need to meet these people. Okay, so meet Heather.
Where's the song?
Okay, I'm filming.
Real tricky. Where's the song?
I don't know. Okay, I'm filming. Okay, so that is Heather. That's Heather. If you haven't met Heather, this is who she is. She's a TikTok influencer. In fact, let's look at how she describes herself in her own Twitter bio. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's a SaaS investor. She's a Razzle Khan's surreal artist, rapper, and fashion designer. She's also a Forbes writer. She's quite good on TikTok. I mean, if you follow her on TikTok, and I must say I've been following her on TikTok for a while. Full disclosure, she's quite a TikTok person.
Where my gifts at? Where my ladies at with endometriosis? Or you got a
Where's endometriosis?
Had a cancer, or a malignant, or a fibroid, and it looked like an egg, smaller than a chicken egg, bigger volume than a golf ball. And that is what
There's a husband in the background. That's Ilia. He's 34 years old. Seems like a nice guy. Nice apartment also. I mean, let's just
real with you about something. You know what? I really hate nail stuff. For the longest time, I only painted one nail, my razzle nail, right? So, along with these Ukrainian sewer rocks that I've saved, I have these razzle nails that are just like, they're layers of nail painted over and over and over that have peeled off over time. I'm collecting it for collage. So the thing about I hate right now, my nails are so goddamn thin because these beesies, they sanded down my nails and it's horrible. It's the worst.
So, I mean, this is Heather. I mean, and
Dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow. Literally.
That's Ilia. That's the husband.
Like my heel.
Or you just want to do this. Okay.
And then I'm going to go.
Why?
I'm frazzled on B-roll. See, you don't understand. This is my commentary on social media and how fucking superficial and consumerist our society is.
Why don't you try a pancake?
I'll try pancakes. Wow. Really?
Okay. I hear your cries. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop talking about Heather and Ilia. But these are the people that were arrested in connection with the big Bitfinex hack of 2016. The Department of Justice claimed that the Department of Justice arrested these two arrested them not for the theft of the stolen cryptocurrency. So this is the big twist here. They weren't arrested for the theft of the stolen cryptocurrency. They were arrested for alleged conspiracy to launder 4.5 billion in stolen cryptocurrency. So it's not the stealing of the cryptocurrency, it is for the laundering of the stolen cryptocurrency. Now, it's not as simple as it is. Let's just go back. Let's just backtrack a little bit. So what is this what is this Bitfinex hack? In 2016, an exchange called Bitfinex was hacked. The same Bitfinex that we have today, the same Bitfinex whose founders and whose owners also founded Tether. The exchange was hacked in 2016. Now, in 2016, the amount of money that was stolen from the exchange was 119,000 Bitcoin, which was stolen. And that at the time was $75 million, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I just want to give you some perspective of what that felt like in August 2016. So if you go back to August 2016 and you look at the market cap of Bitcoin, and let's go to here, the entire market cap of Bitcoin was $10 billion. And so stealing $75 million worth of Bitcoin at the time, that was 1%, or just under 1% of the entire market cap of Bitcoin was stolen back at the time. That is, at the time, was a lot of money. And for years, this money didn't move. And then the money started to move. Now, this is a great thread by Jack Nevolt, which really covers the story. But effectively, what the Department of Justice has done now is that they've recovered about half of the stolen Bitcoins. And that's about $3.6 billion worth of value. So the same 75 million that was stolen, 119,000 Bitcoin, they've managed to recover half of them, and they've recovered $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin, or about $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. So there's this thread by Jack Nevolt, and he basically goes through all the implications, but this is what happened to the price of Bitcoin in 2016 when the market found out about this hack. And that is because 1% of all, or just under 1% of all the Bitcoin in circulation were hacked in the biggest hack ever. And I remember this. I remember watching the price of Bitcoin go down and everyone panicking as to when these hackers would actually start selling the Bitcoin. The hackers weren't, the hackers, or Bitfinex nearly went insolvent. And so what they did back at the time was they issued a token called a recovery rights token. And they said, look, we don't actually have the money to pay you back because the money's been stolen, but we will pay you back using our trading fees. And they issued this token called a recovery rights token. So you got, I don't remember the exact amount, but for the amount of Bitcoin that you had in your wallet, you got a recovery right token. A lot of people thought that Bitfinex would never, ever, ever be able to pay back the money. And so this recovery right token, which was only tradable in Bitfinex, started to trade under net asset value. And a lot of holders, including myself, sold the tokens at under net asset value. And the reason why we did that was because we kind of thought this is going to take Bitfinex years to repay if they ever do repay this. And so what Bitfinex did was they effectively refunded all the people that got their money stolen. So if you had your money stolen in 2016, you got this recovery right token, and Bitfinex would buy them back using some of their trading profits. Okay, so that is what happened. And nothing happened with this money until 2020, when Bitfinex put up a bounty. Anyway, they saw this all moving, and eventually we got this announcement from the Department of Justice that they've arrested these two clowns and that they have taken possession of $3.6 billion worth of cryptocurrency linked to the hack. So far, so good. Makes perfect sense, right? You know how they got the hacker's keys, or you know how they did this? The hacker kept a spreadsheet, get this, a spreadsheet of the private keys to the accounts with $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin on a cloud account. Yeah, true story. These alleged hackers, or these alleged people who are conspiring to launder $3.6 billion worth of value, kept their keys on a spreadsheet on a cloud account. Okay, they were encrypted. Yes, they were encrypted. But the FBI and the Department of Justice can easily unencrypt things. And that's one of the lessons that you need to learn, is that the FBI and the Department of Justice have as many resources as you can possibly imagine to solve crimes like this. And that's what they did. They got people to solve crimes like this. They got people to hack or get access to the account. And they effectively found the private keys. You got to read this. You've actually got to read this. It's actually so. So the dude that managed to steal 120,000 Bitcoin from Bitfinex in 2016 would be so dumb, would have such shitty OPSEC that he kept a fucking spreadsheet with all the accounts and private keys sitting on a motherfucking cloud service. Either is a complete idiot or the CIA are covering their tracks. And they talk about this, and specifically they talk about some of the mistakes that these hackers made. But what they did was they bought a whole lot of things using the Bitcoin, and they sent the stuff to their real addresses. Okay. The next thing is, for the longest time possible, you were accessed using the same IP address. They didn't even use a VPN. I mean, I tell you guys to use a VPN all the time just because we're in crypto. These guys didn't even use a VPN most of the time. They also opened accounts at Bitfinex using their real KYC. Okay, their real KYC. Okay, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound right. But then, if you look a little bit deeper, and that's what I've been doing. I've been looking for the juicy stuff, because it doesn't feel right to me that.
And be real with you about something. You know what? I really, really, really hate nail stuff.
This person who hates nail stuff is one of the world's biggest cyber criminals. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that this is one of the world's biggest cyber criminals. I mean, are we all being fooled by the CIA? Or are we all being fooled by Heather and Ryan? Or Heather and Ilia? Because it doesn't make sense. And so I have done some more digging, and I've come up with a couple of other things which are probably, I mean, this is true. Jack Wagner says, I don't know much about crypto security, but this person shouldn't have been able to steal $4.5 billion worth of crypto. People here are saying they were framed. But were they framed? I mean, you're talking about an account that is verified on Twitter, an account that wrote for Forbes. So this is a person who is verified on Twitter. It's very hard to get verified on Twitter. In fact, I heard Crypto Zaras today, and even George is not really verified on Twitter yet. You also have, she writes for Forbes. So she's not an idiot. She's not an idiot. This person's not an idiot. I don't think that she's as dumb and ditzy as she makes herself out to be. Okay, so I don't think that is the story here. Now let's dig a little bit deeper. So I picked up this thing from Eric Wall. This is the guy that we all call chicken shit. I don't know if you remember him. We all called this guy chicken shit. I don't know if you remember that we did that one day. And we look into who this Heather Ryan is. And if you look into who Heather Ryan is, or who this Heather, she calls herself Heather Ryan on Twitter. She says, so look at this. In 2018, if you're 100% sure Heather Ryan has no useful skills whatsoever because she's a goofy TikTok rapid videos, explains this tweet. BitGo, which is one of the biggest Bitcoin custodians in the world, says, protect your company and clients from cyber crimes. BitGo's chief compliance officer, Matt Perella, discusses strategies with Heather Ryan. So she is actually a cyber security expert, and she was a cyber security expert in 2018. Or at least we know she was a cybersecurity expert in 2018. So she's not this ditzy character. She's not this ditzy character that we all thought. She was working for BitGo. And BitGo, even though BitGo say that, they say that's incorrect, BitGo was not hacked or breached in the incident. Bitfinex had major breach across multiple systems and people. Maybe that's not the case. Because if we do a little bit more digging into this Heather Ryan character, and I want to show you this. It comes from the tweet. I have to find this for you guys. Okay, so this is it. Often a hack is very technically sophisticated, involving zero-day exploits. The target will share as many details as possible to absolve themselves from insider suspicion. If they don't share details, it is more likely it happened in a way they're not proud of. Now, if you look at this person, Heather Ryan, Heather mentions people that she's been able to meet through social engineering. She has a collage of photos. We can see that she met John McAfee. So it's all about social engineering. And she met John McAfee. John McAfee was an expert in cybersecurity. Okay, so she is super, super smart. She gives ways in presentations over here of how she's made the contacts and how you can socially engineer your contacts. So business situations where you need to rapidly build rapport with strangers, at conferences to get a job interview, sales to get press coverage. So she's super, super, super smart. She's smart at influencing people, and she's smart she studies and she even speaks about how to influence people. And this person was working for a cybersecurity firm, or if not working for them, certainly associated with them and doing AMAs for these things. She talks about doing as much research as possible on a target online first, things like getting a map over the area. What does the company organization chart look like? Stalking people's social media, figuring out their likes and their dislikes. Okay, so this is crazy. I mean, this person could actually have been the hacker. But regardless of that, let's look at what happens next, because there's a lot of questions now. Like, I have a lot of questions. Like, for example, will this money actually get back to Bitfinex, or will the Department of Justice actually hold on to the money? We don't know the answer to that. We don't know whether the money will be returned to Bitfinex. There is speculation that the money is going to be returned to Bitfinex, and that you can see because the Leo token, which is the Bitfinex token, is up 80%. So I think it was trading at $5. It's now up to, it went up to $8. It went up like 80% yesterday, and that is in anticipation that was actually before the announcement. So the Leo token went up before the announcement of the hack, which means that the seizure. That means that people knew about the seizure before the announcement of the hack. We also see here that the reason why it went up is because an amount of equal to at least 80% of the recovered net funds of the Bitfinex hack will be used to repurchase and burn outstanding Leo tokens within 18 months of the date of recovery. So there's big questions now as to whether the Department of Justice is actually going to give the money back to Bitfinex. Theoretically, it is actually their property. But you know what? You never know. And I saw a tweet by David Silver. David Silver is one of the smartest crypto lawyers out there. He's one of the smartest crypto lawyers out there. There was a tweet that said, lawyers, what's the probability of Bitfinex getting 3.6 billion in Bitcoin back from the feds? And David Silver says, highly unlikely. So I don't think that this is an easy case to solve. He says, my guess is that this is a KYC mess. The likely scenario is that the government sells off the Bitcoin in large chunks and claims a claims administrator distributes the restitution funds in USD. So we could be in a situation where the government sells the Bitcoin and returns the funds to Bitfinex. And if that happens, then that may move the market. So imagine $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin hitting the market. And I can't imagine that if that happens, that the US government is a responsible seller of Bitcoin. I can't imagine that they would sit here over 18 months and trickle the money slowly into the market. If the US government sells it, they're going to sell it. And so that is one of the things we have to look out for. How long is it going to take to resolve this? What's going to happen to the Bitcoin? Are the Bitcoin actually going to go back to Bitfinex? If they don't go back to Bitfinex, how are they going to enter the market? If they do go back to Bitfinex, well, how's Bitfinex going to sell it? Because they need to buy Leo. They need to buy Leo with the proceeds. They need to sell it and buy Leo with the proceeds. So these are all these questions that need to be answered. But I don't think that these answers are imperative for right now. I think these answers are imperative. I think this case has got a long way to go. I think we're still years away from finality. But we do know one thing. The thing we know for sure, you know what we know for sure? Tell you what we know for sure. We know for sure that the US government now holds more Bitcoin than Tesla. That's what it is. The US government holds more Bitcoin than Tesla. That's what we know for sure. We also know for sure that this is a big win for Bitcoin. This is a massive win for Bitcoin. Why is it such a win for Bitcoin? Let me tell you why it's such a win for Bitcoin. Because of one statement in this statement by the Department of Justice. It says today's arrests and the department's largest financial seizure ever show that cryptocurrency is not a safe haven for criminals. In a futile effort to maintain digital anonymity, defendants laundered stolen funds through a labyrinth of cryptocurrency transactions. Thanks to the meticulous work of law enforcement, the department once again showed how it can follow the money no matter what form it takes. Today, federal law demonstrates once again that we can follow money through the blockchain, and we will not allow cryptocurrency to be a safe haven from money laundering. Okay, let me ask you a question. If $3.6 billion worth of cash was stolen, is there any chance that the feds would have been able to seize it 5 years later? Not a fuck. No chance. And so what this is probably one of the biggest advertisements for Bitcoin ever. It's one of the biggest advertisements for Bitcoin ever. If 6 years later, the Department of Justice can find the perpetrators because they're following all the blockchain transactions of a $75 million hack, and when they get the money back, that money is worth $3.6 billion, could they do that with cash? Could that ever happen in a cash economy? Absolutely not. That is why I think this is one of the biggest adverts for Bitcoin ever. Because what we've proven now is that through blockchain transactions, through traceability on the blockchain, you can track back all the transactions. And that's exactly what happened. And this could never, ever have happened. And you can see this. You can see how they traced this. They literally went through every single account and every single transactions. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why governments should actually love Bitcoin. And this is, I think, a turning point. This is the biggest recovery that they've ever made. And the only reason why they've been able to make it is because it was made with Bitcoin. Simple as that. Okay, now the big question. These dumbasses stored their private keys on a cloud server, on a cloud account. Okay, that's the story. These guys stored their private keys on the cloud account for $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin. Just think about that. Think about $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin, and you store your keys on a cloud account. Yes, they were encrypted, but it just shows you that hackers can open up your encrypted files on a cloud account, which gets you to start asking the question, where should you be storing your keys? Because if these keys for $3.6 billion were discovered on a encrypted cloud account, or encrypted on a cloud account, then where the hell and how the hell should you be storing your keys? That is the big question. And a lot of people are now asking that question of how you should be storing the keys. And I guess there's no real one kind of answer to storing your keys, but I think we now know that you cannot be storing your keys on a cloud account. Paper, also not the safest way. I guess one way to store your keys is to get a hardware wallet and then to save your words somewhere. And when you save your words, what I think is a good idea is to save your words in multiple parts. Break your words. So if you've got 24 words, break up your words into A, B, C. So you've got 8 words in A, 8 words in B, and 8 words in C. That's the 24 words. Then what you do is you couple the words. So you take A and B, A and C, B and C. And what you do is you've now got three different pieces of paper. A, B, B, C, C, A, right? So you've got, and you give those three different files with the words to 3 different people who don't know who the other 2 people are. So if you ever need them, all you need to do is you need to bring together 2 of those people. So that's how you break it up. But you never tell those people who has the rest of the words, so they can never conspire against you. That's one way of doing it. I heard, or someone says here you can leave the last word out. Don't leave the last word out, because the last word can be guessed. You can't do that. I also heard a story about a guy who remembered his last word. So basically, he stored 19 or whatever it was, 23 words, and the last word is the only one that he remembered. He just memorized the last word. Got involved in a car accident, lost his memory. 3,000 Bitcoin later, can't open his account, can't access the account, cannot for the life of him remember the word. But you can break, with one word, you can actually break it. So if you want to store your stuff, you know now that you can't store it on a laptop, you can't store it on a cloud account, you can't store it in an encrypted way. You need to take much bigger precautions. One way is to actually go to a custodian. You can go to a custodian. There are downsides to the custodian. It costs a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but it does cost money to store your Bitcoin. You also have to do a KYC. If you want to open an account with a custodian, you want to do a KYC. But the truth is, that's what we do. We keep our stuff with a custodian. Why? Because it's expensive and there's KYC, but we're not dodging the law. And we think that that's the safest way to do it. If you're not going to do that, well, then make sure that you never store your words in one place. And if you do store your words in one place, you're increasing the chance that it will be done. Break up your words into 3, into A, B, and C, 8 words on each, and then take 3 people, and you must have 2 of those people to be able to open the wallet. That's the best way to do it. If someone says, what happens if the person dies? that's cool because you only need to bring 2 together to open it. So one person can die, you're still bringing 2 together, and because that one will have AC and the other one will have BC, and therefore you've got ABC. Yeah. If you give it to Joe Biden, well, if you give it to Joe Biden, that's your own thing. Speaking of Joe Biden, let's talk about Russia for a second. Big announcement about Russia. Huge announcement about Russia. People don't understand what's going on here, so I'm gonna show you. Oh, a lot of you think that it's safe that to keep your a software wallet and not use a hardware wallet. Well, I don't know if you read this, but hodlers beware. New malware targets MetaMask and 40 other crypto wallets. So there's a new malware that once it gets installed in your machine, basically it clears out your wallets. I don't know, scary stuff. You need to be using a hardware wallet, and you need to be breaking your words between 3 people, and that's just the only way it works. That's the only way it works. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't make the mistakes, guys. It's just too scary. Anyway, let's go back to Russia. So this is huge news. Massive news. No one understands. I don't know if people understand just how big this news is, but the news is that the Russian government and central bank have now agreed to treat cryptocurrency or to treat Bitcoin as a currency. Okay, so there are downsides and there are upsides. Let's talk about the downsides and the upside. The downside is that because it is treated like a currency, there are 2 big downsides in Russia because of this. The first downside is that every transaction over $8,000 has to be reported, and that's because of money laundering. So if there's any cryptocurrency transaction that is done over $8,000, it has to be reported. The second thing is that the only way to buy cryptocurrencies, because they're regulated as a currency, is through registered currency vendors and banks. So you have to buy, you can only buy crypto from people that have licenses to sell crypto. So Russia is seriously cleaning up and saying, look, it's a currency, and therefore every transaction over $8,000 must be reported. Otherwise, it's illegal. And you can only buy Bitcoin through registered, licensed exchanges or banks. So you're gonna have to. That's the downside. Now let's look at the upside and why this is a huge fuck you to the United States. This is huge news against the United States, and I'll tell you exactly why. In the United States, Bitcoin is regulated as property or as an asset, which means a couple of things. The first thing it means is that if you want to spend your Bitcoin, every time you spend your Bitcoin, whether you buy a cup of coffee or buy a laptop, it is deemed as a taxable event. It's a huge thing. In the United States, every time that you sell Bitcoin, if you sell Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee, it is a taxable event. You have to pay capital gains or income tax on your Bitcoin. That's the law. The second part of it is that if companies want to keep Bitcoin on their balance sheets, if companies want to keep Bitcoin on their balance sheets in the United States, because it is not treated as a currency, because it is treated as an asset or as property, it means that if the value of Bitcoin goes down, that affects your income and your earnings. So that happened to MicroStrategy. If the value of your Bitcoin on your balance sheet go down, then you have to write down your income to the same amount. Okay, now that's a massive disincentive for listed companies to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Because if you buy Bitcoin at 40,000 and Bitcoin goes down, if you buy, let's say you bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin and you made $1 million worth of profit and your Bitcoin went down by 10%, your profit in your company is now 900,000 because you have to write down the loss. But if Bitcoin goes back up, in terms of US, the way it's treated in the United States, you don't write up the value of Bitcoin, which means that for a company buying Bitcoin, it's a very bad scenario because you're buying it and effectively all it can do while it protects your balance sheet is actually hit your income statement, which is crazy. So in the US, because Bitcoin is not a currency, because Bitcoin is a commodity or is treated as an asset, so to speak, one is every time you spend it, you got to pay capital gains tax, ridiculous. The second thing is if you store it on your balance sheet, well, you know what happens. That's what I said a second ago. In Russia, it's different. Russia is saying Bitcoin's a currency, which means that if companies put the currency on their balance sheet and they're holding it as a currency, they market to market when they report their earnings, which means if it goes down, well, then you write it down. But if it goes up, well, then you write it up. Also, the tax on currency sales is not the same as the tax on asset sales. In fact, it's much more lenient. And the third thing is because it's a currency, you can now spend it without capital gains tax. So you can, when you spend a currency, when you spend a Bitcoin, you don't pay capital gains tax in Russia. Now, this is huge news because it is a big 1-0 to Russia. Russia has basically looked at how the USA is treating Bitcoin. It's looked at how the USA is treating Bitcoin. It's looked at how India has now regulated cryptocurrencies, looked at China and said, you know what, we're actually grabbing the bull by the horns. And now you've got this massive superpower, which is actually starting to embrace cryptocurrency. You've got Russia scoring 1 goal against the United States. While the United States is so hostile to crypto and Bitcoin, well, Russia is saying, we're going to embrace it. And this could start a whole trend. This could start a whole movement now. Putin is much smarter than Biden, but Biden doesn't remember. All right, let's go into some altcoin news, because there is some altcoin news that I want to speak to you guys about. Which one should we look at first? I think we should talk about Anchor Protocol. Let's talk about Anchor Protocol. So we do have Anchor Protocol, and remember that Anchor Protocol provides its users with 20% return. So if you deposit your UST, you get 20% return on your protocol. It's a guaranteed 19.47% return. And what it does is it does this by taking your assets that you borrow against. So if you want to borrow, you deposit your bonded ETH or your wrapped ETH and your bonded Luna or your wrapped Luna. And if you give this as collateral, you can borrow against it. You borrow at 13.99%, and you can borrow a certain amount of money against it. Now, the problem is that because there's so many deposits in Anchor Protocol is now running out of money to pay the interest rate. So in other words, the people that have deposited expecting a 20% return, well, Anchor Protocol right now is running out of reserves because not many people are borrowing because the market's been so far down. The other reason why people aren't borrowing is because there's actually only 2 assets on this protocol that you can borrow against. You can only borrow if you stake your ETH or stake your Luna. So if you want to borrow, you give them your Luna and you can borrow against your Luna. But you can't borrow against other assets. And so there's this misbalance because right now, if you look at Anchor right now, you'll see that there are deposits of $6 billion or $5.8 billion worth of UST, which is earning 20%. But people have only borrowed $1.7 billion because there's no demand for the borrowing. So this is a big problem because in 12 days or 10 days, Anchor Protocol isn't going to be able to repay the 20%. And everybody's panicking about this. And the reason why people are panicking about this is because UST has a market cap of $11 billion, of which $5.8 billion is actually deposited in Anchor Protocol. So a large amount of the deposits are deposited in Anchor Protocol. And people are worried that if Anchor Protocol can't keep paying 20%, then you know what's going to happen. Then people are going to take their money out. And if they take their money out, well, maybe they're going to take their money out of UST. And then if they take their money out of UST, well, then maybe that's going to bring down the whole Luna price and everything else. So right now, there is a proposal on the table. And the proposal on the table is to refund or to recapitalize the Anchor Protocol yield reserve with another $450 million. That's a proposal that's been dropped to Terra to use some of the foundation tokens, so to speak, or the project tokens to refinance the treasury, to put another $450 million in the treasury, while what they do is they start adding more tokens that you can borrow against. So if they add Solana and if they add Avalanche and if they add all the other tokens that they want to add on here, then maybe people will borrow more because there'll be more assets to borrow against. Because right now you can only borrow if you've got ETH and Luna. So if you don't have ETH and Luna, you've only got Solana and you want to borrow money. Well, how do you borrow money? That's the problem. You see, that's the problem. So if they're saying, look, this is happening right now, they're adding all these assets, but in the interim, maybe we can refinance Anchor Protocol with another $450 million. Maybe that's the way to do it. And so let's wait for that. But let's keep a close eye on it. I think that there's absolutely nothing to worry about here. I think that it will be refinanced. Do Kwon has signaled that it will be refinanced. And even if not, I mean, important to note something else here. Even if they don't refinance Anchor, the yield, without digging into the yield reserve, you still can get a 10% APY on your UST. Now, 10% APY on the UST, it is actually quite competitive. It's not amazing, but it is actually quite competitive. Alrighty, so that is that story. Is there anything else that I want to talk to you about today before we start degening? Should we start degening? See, I saw this, Microsoft hiring a director of business development. Yeah, I think it's, yeah, good. I think it's good. I think it's another one of those things. Let's see, is there anything else that we want to talk about today? Okay, let's talk about, should we degen? Or should we degen tomorrow? Today, people want degen. Let me know if you want to degen today or tomorrow. Let me know today if you want to degen today or tomorrow in the comments. I bet you the people that are here that want to degen. Okay, let's degen. Let's degen. All right, so let's talk about degen. A lot of you are asking whether it's time to get back into the market. And the reason why you're asking whether it's time to get into the market, and I understand this. I mean, I understand this. Could no one tell me that my shirt's been increased? So the reason why you're asking is because you've had this massive bounce from Bitcoin. Bitcoin's gone from 33,000 all the way up to 45,000, 44,198 now. And you're asking yourself, have I missed the run? Is it safe to get into the market, or should I look for a pullback? And the answer is that we probably will get some kind of pullback, but you shouldn't wait for the pullback to make a strategy of what to buy. You shouldn't wait for the pullback. What you should do is you should start doing calculated bets of what to buy now. And then you should start dollar cost averaging. And you can even start dollar cost averaging right now into some of them. You don't have to wait. You can start dollar cost averaging today into some of these tokens. You don't have to wait. And I'll show you what I mean. So if you want to start dollar cost averaging, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, what can I buy now that is market protected? And when I say market protected, I don't mean that can't go down, but I mean, if the market does go down again, it's not going to get hit as hard, okay? It's not going to get hit as hard, and it will recover quicker than the market. Because what you want is you want to buy stuff that's not going to get hit too hard and is going to recover quicker than the market. And if you want to buy stuff like that, you got to find a narrative that is increasing. So you got to find a narrative that's increasing. You got to find a safe narrative. Obviously, the safest narrative in the world, layer one. You can buy layer ones now. You may not get the top, you may not get the bottom, but you can start buying layer ones. You know that Ethereum in 5 years' time or 3 years' time is going to be much higher than it is today. It may be very much higher in 3 months' time, but you know for sure that in a year's time, layer ones will fire. You know Avalanche is going to fire. You can kind of see the signs that Phantom is going to fire. So there are layer ones, and layer ones are pretty much a safe-ish bet if you want to start investing in the market. You can start degenning into the layer ones. You can start degenning into things like Phantom, Avalanche. But that's not an aggressive enough degen. There is another degen which I think is also very good. And the degen narrative is around DeFi. And you cannot deny the fact that DeFi is growing. And I think that there's one chart here which shows everything. It is this chart over here. And what it shows is it shows the percentage of DeFi TVL as a function of the total market cap. So the DeFi TVL as a portion of the total market cap. And what you're seeing is that slowly, DeFi is starting to grow and to take up the entire market cap. So it's growing and growing and growing. It was on pretty much close to zero get this. In January 2020, DeFi was only 0.39. So you take the total crypto funds, only 0.39% of the market cap in January 2020. Today, it's around 14% of the total market cap. So 14% of the total market cap is actually DeFi TVL, value locked in DeFi, which means that DeFi is being adopted. Regardless of the ups and downs of crypto, DeFi is being adopted. So what we know is that layer ones are safe, and we're now saying to ourselves, hold on a second, DeFi is actually growing absolutely fast. And you should all be getting into DeFi, which is why we got you the Miles show in the mornings, because you need to be starting to get into DeFi. DeFi for me is like play to earn for adults. So play to earn for adults, play to earn for non-gamers. When I play DeFi, that's what it is. I feel like I'm playing a game, and in that game, I'm earning money. So I'm not buying an NFT and I'm not playing the NFT, but staking for me is fun. I do it. I hop from place to place. DeFi for me is the next, it's finance 3.0. And why do I say finance 3.0? Because you have fun, you play game theory all day long while making money. And that is what's happening right here. And that's why you can see that 14%, in 2 years, we went from 0 to 14% of all crypto is now locked up in DeFi. So what we know is that layer ones are safe, and we know that DeFi is safe. Okay, good. So now you've got to just combine the two narratives. You've got to say, okay, layer one, Great. Which layer one do I want? Which layer one is the most aggressive? Personally, I'm not like the biggest ETH fan in the world. I'm not against it, but I just think that ETH's very expensive and has a lot of problems. And so I'm looking at the other chains and I'm saying, I've got a higher risk appetite. I've got a very high risk appetite. And therefore I'm looking at the chains that I think are going to grow exponentially. There's obviously much higher risk. Who's trying to flirt with me in the comments? Is there someone flirting with me in the comments?
Yeah.
Just tell her to send bikini pics. Just if you could just reply, say send bikini pics. Okay, so layer ones, great narrative. You can choose your layer one. I'm going to show you some of the layer ones that I like, but the ones that we like as a group, as a collective, as a family, we love Luna, we love Avalanche, we love Phantom, we love Solana, we like ETH. We don't mind ETH. We like ETH. I read. That's a boy. That's a boy. So we like ETH. We don't love ETH. We do like ETH. We do like ETH. Okay, so you take the two narratives, you combine them. You say DeFi on new chains that we like because we like the layer one narrative. Amazing. So far, so good. But which DeFi plays do you go for? The fundamental building block for DeFi, for any project, for any chain, if you want to have DeFi, you got to have one thing, and that you got to have a DEX. If you don't have a DEX and you can't send DEX Pics, then you can't play DeFi. If you cannot send, like Cardano still can't send DEX Pics. Even Sunday Swap, I've seen the DEX Pics from Sunday Swap. Let me tell you, disappointing, very disappointing. And I've seen lots of DEX Pics in my life, and Sunday Swap's DEX is disappointing, very disappointing. So if a chain wants to play DeFi, then the chain has to be able to send DEX Pics. It's got to have a DEX. And you've got to put your money on the DEX. And I'll show you why that's so important. So let's quickly just look at, in fact, before I show you why it's so important, let's just quickly look at some numbers here, right? So we look at the numbers and we look at the DEXs and we look at the DEXs that are being used. And you start to see a trend here. PancakeSwap, DEX being used a lot on BSC. Not a big fan of BSC. Uniswap, being used a lot in Ethereum, but then you see the smaller chains. So you see Phantom and you see Avalanche, DEX Pics being used, DEX is being used a lot. And this is over the last 30 days. Be careful when you look at DEX valuations, because if it's done over 1 day, it's skewed, but this is over the last 30 days. And over the last 30 days, you can see that there's Trader Joe, which is very good, and you can see that there's Phantom, which is very good, Spooky Swap, which is very good. So you're starting to see that the chains are starting to be used and the DEXs are starting to be used. And then you start looking at metrics like, what is the market cap to TVL? And you want the ones with the lowest market cap to TVL. So the ones that are, so Osmosis has a very high market cap to TVL. Crazy, too expensive. I love Osmosis. I think DEX on Cosmos is insane, but the valuation for me is too high, so I can't get into it. So what I've done is I've basically created a little sheet, a little cheat sheet for the Banter fam. Here it is. Over here, and let me zoom in for you guys so that you can see it. So those of you who can't see, there we go. You can see it on the thing now. And I've taken all the DEXs and I've looked to see if they're on KuCoin, because we want to do a lot of our trading on KuCoin. The reason why I want to do a lot of our trading on KuCoin is they are giving us 1 Bitcoin giveaway for an account that's opened with us before the end of March. So if you look at, there's a referral link on the bottom. If you don't have a KuCoin account, open a KuCoin account, because that's where we're going to be doing most of our trading. And I'm going to show you guys how to trade all these tokens. And so I've looked at all of these. Now, not too interested in SushiSwap and Uniswap. Not too interested in SushiSwap and Uniswap. But then there are a few that I'm very interested in. First one, Astroport. It is the only DEX on the Terra Luna blockchain. It launched at a price of $2. It is currently trading at 67 cents. Okay? You don't have to be a genius to work this out, that this thing is going to happen. Delphi Digital haven't yet done anything with their token, and there's no staking it. You don't have to be a genius to work out that this thing is going to go up. You don't have to be a genius to work it out. Okay, so this one of my favorite ones. It also ticks all the other metrics for me. It's 68% down from its high. It's 7% above its low. It hasn't bounced yet. It's one of the only DEXs that hasn't bounced and has gone from its high and basically hasn't recovered. Okay, when I see that, I buy. Next one that I like, Trader Joe. I've said it to you guys before. I love Trader Joe. I love Avalanche. I think Avalanche is, as we saw the numbers, it is, okay, it's bounced a lot from the low. It has bounced a lot from the low, but it's also far away from the high. It got killed. So for me, I'm starting to DCA into these things. Then there's some other ones which I really love. One of my favorites, DEX. DEX is not a traditional exchange. It is a derivatives exchange. It's almost like the Uniswap, but for derivatives, which is decentralized. It's trading at a market cap of $1 billion. And we all know that derivatives are actually bigger than spot. So for me, here we go. I'm looking to buy DEX. Okay, then osmosis. I love osmosis. Can't justify the value. I can't justify a fully diluted value of $10 billion on osmosis when Uniswap has a fully diluted valuation of $12 billion. So not good for me, not good for me. Not going to touch that one. As much as I do love the project, it's too expensive for me. Okay, then there's this big Polkadot narrative. Are you invested in any Polkadot DEXs? So Polkadex is one of them. 17% from its recent low, 75% from its high. Total value to total market cap, fully diluted 152 million. Okay, amazing. Good for me. Spooky Swap, fully diluted valuation, 328 million on a chain which I really believe in. I like it. Popsicle, another one which I like. Why? Because it's failed and it's starting to come up. Look at this. It is 90% up from its low, but 90% from its high. So for me, love that one. I love that one. That's another one that I want to buy. And then if you like Solana, I love Solana, then the smaller ones, I mean, I took a small position in Older Index just because I think that it's one of the smaller ones, 85 million fully diluted market cap. So this is for me the narrative that I feel safe in entering. Why do I feel safe in entering? Because I believe in DeFi. I believe that regardless of what's going to happen in the interest rate cycle, I think DeFi is going to recover and the trend of DeFi is going to continue. And I think that if we look at this chart over here, and we look at this chart over here and we look at the total percentage of TVL, total percentage of crypto market cap in TVL, we will find that this goes to 28% and keeps doubling. I think we're going to start getting exponential growth. And the key fundamental piece of technology that powers DeFi is the DEX. So you pick your chain, you pick your DEX, you buy, you send DEX Pics. That's basically how it works. And tomorrow we'll carry on talking about, we'll go much deeper into the DEX valuations, but for me, definitely, that is somewhere where I'm happy to put my money. Tomorrow we'll start talking about price targets for these DEXs. Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. Also, I mean, I was only supposed to announce it tomorrow, but I'll announce it today. So KuCoin have said that they are, we haven't finalized this, we're going to finalize them ASAP. One full Bitcoin to one lucky account that is opened with a crypto Banter referral link between now and the end of March. Not finalized, but it is going to happen. We're going to finalize it any day now. And so you don't need to do anything. You just need to open an account. You don't have to fund it. You don't have to do anything. If you haven't got an account, just open an account. They're going to just at random take an account and they're going to just drop a Bitcoin, a full Bitcoin into that account. Not asking you to trade futures, not asking you to fund the account, not asking you, just open an account using the referral link. You do that, you stand a chance to win. You don't even have to KYC yourself. You do that, you stand a chance to win one full Bitcoin at the end of March. One full Bitcoin today is, you want to say, no, don't tell your friends. If you tell your friends, everyone's saying tell your friends, don't tell your friends. If you tell your friends, there's less chance that you're going to win. That's how it works. You see, people are smart. Don't tell anyone. Let's say that 100 people open an account, then there's 1 in 100 chance. But if you tell your friends to open an account, then that means there's more chance. So don't tell anyone, guys. I mean, for God's sake, be smart. Don't tell your friends. Shh. And don't tell Bitcoin. All right, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. I wanted to keep this so short, but every time I want to keep this so short, you guys kept me here. Hustle, gaming show, lots of alpha.
Definitely going to be a big show today. I mean, we just, Sandbox just announced a partnership with Gucci today. So we're going to kind of talk about all the partnerships they've established. We got games to dive into. Like I said, we have a low cap gaming studio to dive into. So I'm not going to give any more information. We'll talk about it later on today. And potentially teasing a potential giveaway with the CeFi mystery box with our official sponsor of InTheGame. So we'll look at that as well. A lot to look forward to. So the rest of the week's going to be jam-packed. Be sure to tune in 3 hours from now.
3 hours from now, 3 hours and 20 minutes from now, the best alpha show on the planet. It's the only show that you have to watch on one speed because there's so much alpha in that show. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely.
Love you, my brother. See you in a bit. See you in 3 hours. Love you guys. See you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well.